Okay, Jim, a crowning achievement, the history of Penn football, 1989, 1990. All right, I want you to take me back to the first time you moved from South Bend to Penn. You had a chance to go to camp and get involved in football. Your first ever football experience as a young, soon-to-be Penn Kingsman. Tell me about it.
If you're talking high school, after middle school, people always ask me all the time what, why Penn was so neat. And I always tell them, well, in the 7th grade, they'd bring the varsity kids over and talk to us. And, that was, my whole feeling was that some kids wanted to go to Notre Dame play, some kids wanted to go to play for the Steelers, the Packers, whatever. And all I wanted to do in 7th grade and 8th grade was be a Kingsman. So that was my number one thing. I never really had those aspirations of being pro. I guess, I realized that I wasn't 6'5", and that's all I wanted to do is be a Kingsman. When I went over there and, finally got to put on the black and gold, it was exciting. It was exciting, and then, you set the goal. If you want that gold rush, I played offensive guard, so you want that gold rush sticker for your helmet, and that was a huge deal. And you wanted those stars on your helmet, and that was a huge deal. So it was a huge experience. It was a lot of pride in the people around you. You looked up to the guys that were ahead of you, had a lot of respect for them, and they had a lot of respect for you. I think going through the similar things, they gave you a hard time, and like upperclassmen always do, but it was all in fun. I don't ever remember bad things happening, but they were good guys, wanted you to be successful.
There's an interesting dynamic as I've talked to former Penn players about the Wild Bunch and the Gold Rush, and some emotional moments where guys first got those stickers and shirts, whatever the case. I had one guy sat down and just absolutely broke down because it was like it was the great. This is something I always wanted to do his whole life, was get his Gold Rush or his Wild Bunch sticker, decal, whatever the case may be. So I want you to take me back to when you got that Gold Rush sticker, helmet, decal, or shirt, whatever the case was in your case. What was it like?
Oh, getting the sticker, that was, when you got that sticker handed to you, that was huge. You go up and you get that sticker, and you're the man at that position, and that's what you really work for. I was lucky that I was a 2-year guy, so I got to get it as my junior year. I know for some of those guys that got to wait through their senior year, it's real exciting. I guess I got it early, so I guess I was a little spoiled in that way that I got it so early. But it was exciting, and like I said, the helmet stickers, you always wanted to get the helmet stickers for the pancakes or for your offense being successful, no turnovers, things like that. So it was, every time you got some stickers, it was exciting.
All right, I want you to take me back to your first encounter with the head football coach of the Penn Kingsmen, Coach Chris Giesman. What do you first remember that first moment in time, and subsequently, how has your relationship with the Geezer grown over the years?
I can remember going to camp, going into 7th grade that summer, going into 7th grade, being in camp, and just a guy that was just larger than life. He was like, he was like a giant. Of course, he's a big man, and you're a 7th grader, and he had that, the laugh, and he had that voice, and you just were drawn to him. He was never intimidating, he always made you feel like he wanted you to be around, and you wanted to be around him just because he was, like I said, that laugh, the way he talks, just everything was great. So, from then on, he 7th grade, he knew your name in 7th grade. That was a huge deal. He knew who you were. At camp, you'd go to 8th grade, he'd know who you are, he'd see you out, he'd know your name. And that was a huge deal, for a 14-year-old kid, the head football coach in town, to know your name. Then throughout the years, lucky enough, I became a coach after I played high school football. Got to see him in a totally different light than other than just a football coach. Got to see, I didn't talk to him, just, I've never met anybody that wasn't in awe of Coach Giesman. He just, he kind of puts on the little bit of a southern kind of, maybe he's not so bright guy, but he's the brightest guy in the room wherever you go. And I think a lot of people that didn't play for him or don't know him very well don't realize, just what a genius he was. And he had that way of of challenging you. You know, you go to practice on Monday, and it didn't matter who you were playing. They're the best team you were playing all year. You know, he didn't think we'd be able to beat them. You know, and he had us believe that. And you know, Tuesday, well, maybe we got a chance. Wednesday, you know, I think we can. You know, if we do this, then you know, by Thursday, I mean, he's having you know, believe that, you know, if we were playing the Vikings, we'd win. You know, but he'd start off every Monday at that film session, and he'd say, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it was, you know, getting to know him as a grown man and talking to him in that way. It's really, you know, kind of brought all things all together for me, full circle, I guess.
Let's talk about assistant coach or position coach, Coach Chuck Wagner. He's a colorful character.
Oh, he's a colorful character. I mean, I coached offensive line in high school for a lot of years, and I never could do the things he did. I still don't, when I get together with friends, played offensive line, we still don't know how he saw some of the things he saw. We would be in a film session, and he'd say, oh, well, you didn't quite step that 45-degree angle, or you should have been 6 inches shorter on that step. You know, and he was just amazing. I mean, you know, he's one of those guys that probably could have went and coached in any college in America. You know, that's how good he was. One
thing that we've talked about with all of our coaches and administrators and players, when Coach Giesman and Dr. Spiker got together, they created this mindset culture, if you will, called the Penn Way. From your standpoint, Jim, how would you define the Penn Way?
I would probably say the Penn Way is doing things the right way, the way that you're told, the way you're expected to do them. And there's, you know, when you're playing for Wagner, you did it his way, you stepped his way, or it was no way, it's his way, or that was the only way. And I think if you were going to be a player, I think you had to accept that, and that's what you had to do. Exactly what they said. You know, we had some guys that went to play college, small college ball, but we also had a bunch of 5'8" guys that didn't play any ball, but you know what, could get after you and made a difference. So I mean, but I think the coaches knew if they were going to win with those kind of kids, and they had to convince them to, you know, it had to be done one way and one way only.
Okay, let's talk about a favorite one or two moments as a player. Thinking back on whether it be growing up through the middle school ranks or now into the high school dynamic, what's a favorite Penn moment that still to this day that holds a special place in your heart?
I would probably say we were playing my junior year on the run when we got state runner up that year. We were playing Fort Wayne North, and it had snowed really, really bad. I mean, tons of snow. And then I think maybe like on Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday, they took a plows and plowed the snow off of the field at Fort Wayne North, and then it really warmed up and rained on Thursday or early Friday. So we got there, and it was just mud, nothing but mud. And we played, and you know, everybody's covered in mud. You couldn't see numbers, you couldn't see anything. We had a senior tight end, Mark Reddy, they were going to bring into the game, and coach called him, and all of a sudden you see Mark, and Mark's the only guy with a totally clean white jersey and pants. So I can just remember all, you know, bunches of guys just grabbing handfuls of mud and rubbing all over Mark, and that was a good memory.
One thing that Coach Giesman prides himself in is that when he went to work every day, his coaching staff and they laughed every single day. So there was some lighthearted and funny moments there for the coaches. Was that the same case with the players? Was there some lighthearted and funny moments? I know there was one story about Coach Giesman falling down after the game as he was coming off the field. All kinds of neat stories. Is there a favorite coach's moment or a player's moment that's funny?
Oh, there's tons and tons of funny, you know, funny things. You know, just listening to Coach Giesman is, you know, just funny. I mean, all the, you know, the guys that could imitate Coach Giesman, you know, that's probably the thing that was the funniest to me, is you get a couple guys every year that could really, really imitate him and you know, do the voice and do the walk and all that stuff. And you know, even to this day, you know, we'll sit and somebody will say something like Coach Giesman, it just cracks everybody up. Like I said, I mean, he was just colorful, just, you know, just a great coach, great person, and you know, everybody loved him for that.
All right, let's talk about the postseason success that you had a chance to be a part of. So it's always great to make that long tournament run, and you were fortunate to be a part of one of those. So take me back to that time of making that deep tournament run?
That was my junior year. I started as a junior. We had a great defense. Aaron Wimbler went to IU, and Eric Klein was a linebacker. He's probably, definitely one of the best in the state. But we had a tough defense. Our offense was young. I think we only had 2 or 3 seniors on our offense that year. So I think there were a lot of questions at that point. I think that the coaches realized that we'd be able to stop a lot of people, but didn't know if we'd be able to score a lot of points. So, we went through the regular season pretty well. I can remember the first game. Yeah, I can remember the first game at Central. If I can go back to the funny story, was our first game was at Elkhart Central, and we're all nervous. A bunch of us are juniors. Brian Griman was the quarterback. He's supposed to be the guy leading us. Supposed to give us, build our confidence up. And we're getting ready for the first snap, and we go up to, we're getting in the huddle, and all of a sudden Griman's nowhere to be found, and we hear a noise, and we look back, and he's bent over throwing up spaghetti on the field. So, wasn't a whole lot of confidence builder there, but, kind of broke up that nervousness. We all got a good laugh out of it, and we ended up winning that game. Probably a little embarrassing for Brian, but it's all right. But yeah, going through the season, we've had some tough games. Mishawaka was a tough game. I think we won 14-21, 21-14 that game. The conference was tough back then. I mean, it wasn't a pushover. Got into the playoffs. We drew 3 Fort Wayne schools, so we had to play. Was it Northrop, North, and I think Snyder. Never fun to go through Fort Wayne, especially back then. They were tough. And then we played Valpo, and the regional was Lafayette Jeff, cold, stone-hard field. And then we came back and played home we played Valpo at home, and it just had snowed and snowed and snowed. And that was winning that game was probably the most wonderful thing I can remember. Just with the weather being cold, and then you finally realize you're going to the state championship, which was the goal for every kid in the state of Indiana. So
Now, in closing, you had a chance to go coach in Elkhart. Mm-hmm. So you've had a chance to view the Penn program from an outsider, if that's ever such a possible thing as a former player. But you look at Penn in a different vantage point than you may have looked at it from your Penn eyes. Mm-hmm. What do you think the perception of the Penn football program is from most outsiders? What's your take?
I think from coaches, I think they're admired. I think from people that maybe former players at other schools, fans from other schools, I think they're disliked because they win. One thing, when I was coaching, I coached offensive line and defensive line at Elkhart Memorial for a number of years, and it was trying to build kind of what Penn had, that kind of relationship between the players and the coaches, and just that whole belief that they can win and they can beat everybody, just to have that confidence. And it's a hard thing to do. I mean, we had a couple teams over there that I think the kids actually bought in, and we were very successful. But I think that was the most difficult thing in trying to build what Penn has as far as the players and working together. I think that was the most difficult thing.
Do you have a favorite Penn moment?
My favorite Penn moment, I would have to say that when we won the semi-state at home in the snow against Valpo, and just everybody rushing the stands, and that was a great moment, just knowing that we were going.
Awesome. Very good, buddy.
Thank you.
Bagged it. Well done.